Everyone has moments in life they can't just stop thinking about. They can be embarrassing things, like that one time you face planted in front of a group of teenagers, or something amazing like the first time you hosted your family for the holidays. And on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, hosted by me, Keke Palmer, and presented by BMW, we know to savor the good memories and let go of the bad. And one thing everyone remembers fondly is their first time behind the wheel of a BMW. So come join me and BMW this summer as we explore pop culture moments and topics you just can't stop thinking about on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, sponsored by BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Well, shopping for a car?
Yep, Carvana made financing a car as smooth as can be.
Oh, yeah?
I got pre-qualified instantly and had real terms personalized just for me.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
Well, I got to browse thousands of car options on Carvana, all within my budget.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
It does. I actually wanted a car that seemed out of my range, but I was able to add a cosigner and found my dream car.
It doesn't get much...
Oh, it gets smoother. It's getting delivered tomorrow.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get pre-qualified today.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
And each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
Today, our guest is Jed Shepherd. He's worked on some of the incredible movies of the past couple of years, from HOST to DASHCAM. He's working on a video game. He just wrote a short visual novel called Flicker in collaboration with Trevor Henderson. What doesn't he do, folks? We're so excited he's here. Jed, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for asking me, Mary Beth and Terry. Appreciate it. I'm a fan of the podcast, fan of you guys. So, yeah, thank you for asking me. And the thing I'm going to be talking about later, won't reveal it just yet, is genuinely one of my favourite things to talk about. And yeah, I'm glad I get to do it in an official capacity instead of bothering people at bus stops.
Have you heard the good word of this movie?
That's me. That is me.
I cannot wait to talk about that. But before we do, let's go back to the very beginning. How did you get introduced to horror?
So, every time someone asks me this, I need to kind of think, do I tell them a completely made-up story, or do I tell them the truth? But I will tell you the truth. So, I barely knew anybody who was into horror growing up. Like, genuinely nobody. It was just me. I was the weird kid in school who liked horror. I went to a Catholic school. Basically, all the way up to the age of 18, I was Catholic school taught by priests. So there was an aura of horror anyway, like spiritual horror. Yeah. And I've told people this before, but I'm half Filipino. My mum's from Philippines. And they are very into monsters and ghosts and the supernatural. And they have the belief that it's real. The monsters are real physical things. There are ghosts. And growing up, I was told that I could go outside right now, meet a ghost, meet a monster. My mum is genuinely convinced that she's seen a werewolf. How many mums can say that?
Wait, pause.
Yeah.
What? Can you share that story really quick? 'Cause
Yeah.
you can't just tell us that and then have me be like...
She's seen all types of creatures. So regarding the werewolf, her story is that when she was a kid, she was walking through a forest, as you do, or some kind of line of trees, and she heard a flute playing. And Filipinos out there will know, like, if you hear a flute in the forest, you need to run, because usually it's the precursor to something bad. So she heard a flute. So she, being a kid, she walked towards it, and then she saw a pair of twin girls, circling a tree, going round and round and round and round and round a tree, mesmerized by this flute. She said she looked up into the tree, and what was playing the flute? A werewolf. No joke. This is the and this is the vibe I grew up with. That where the
So
flute
a lot of
playing
things are like
werewolves.
starting to make sense about you, like as a person. I love that. Wait, was this when she grew up? And was she in the Philippines when she saw this, or was
yes.
Okay.
She was in the
Okay.
Philippines, and just very quickly, she also believes in this thing called the Snake Man, which is in very very quick version. She was in a mall in Manila in Philippines, and she saw a girl go into a changing room. She was waiting for her turn to get changed. The girl didn't come out. They looked over the top. The girl was gone. And my mum said to the cashier who worked there, "Hey, I saw a girl going into the changing room and she's disappeared. Well, what happened?" And they said, "Oh, the Snake Man's got her."
What?
I love that. That's like the immediate reaction.
Yeah, exactly. And like basically, apparently, there's a man who comes through the mirror in this particular mall and takes girls.
Oh,
yeah. And I asked my
In
mum.
that mall specifically, that is fucking
Yes,
horrifying.
and if you Google it, there is a history of it. That mall having a snake guy in it, and and I said to my mum, "What are you talking about? Why? How can there be a half snake man?" And my mum said maybe his mum was a snake. That was her her reasoning behind this snake man existing and coming through the mirrors. So that's what I had to deal with growing up, like someone who was very into supernatural stuff, and still now I had to call up Philippines and to cancel the job of an exorcist that my mum had hired to look after my uncle's house. And his exorcist was living in my uncle's house rent-free to stop the spirits of my dead uncle from, I don't know, scaring people. So I had to call up and say, "You are ripping my family off. You need to stop what you're doing." But sometimes I think, what if he was actually genuine? What if he was the barrier between, like,
movie idea?
Yeah, exactly.
Movie idea. I was gonna say, your life sounds just like a free-flowing movie ideas and inspiration, like nobody's business.
It's basically the Conjuring universe, yeah. But yeah, basically having that as a kid, and thinking monsters were real. I turned to like horror media, to films, to comics, to books, and read everything and watched everything by myself because I had nobody else to share it with. So it was a real personal thing. And those were the days when, if you said you were a horror fan, especially in the UK, you were an outcast, basically. And now it was a little bit easier, but back then it wasn't. So yeah, so I was reading horror books and watching horror stuff more as training for the monsters I was going to face in the world. Because if I'm going to face a werewolf, I need to know about silver bullets. I need to know about silver bullets. I need to know all the little things you have to do to kill people. And also, like in the UK, there was a spate of like vampire signs as well. In about 30 years ago, and it's not genuine, of course, but there was all kinds of stuff. That's what you think. Yeah. So yeah.
Jed, I love hearing that because I grew up in Alaska, and my dad was into horror movies, but like I was that weird kid that was off by himself learning how to kill werewolves and watching movies and taking notes. Like, okay, well, Freddy has died because of being his back turned on, from being kissed, from being buried, from like all this stuff. I was like taking copious notes in case I had to come up against one of those villains because I was gonna be ready.
Yeah. Exactly. And with Chucky, you just close the door. That's what I figured out early on. Just close the door. Chucky can't get you.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I definitely thought I was a werewolf growing up.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, I was, again, weird fucking kid. It's okay.
Ginger
And I
snaps
channeled
vibes.
it now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
Ginger
did.
Snaps vibes. It was... wow. But so, do you remember what your first horror movie was?
Yeah, I believe it was Nightmare on Elm Street. And that was because a friend's brother in my primary school, so I was like 6 or 7, my friend's brother, older brother, who was about 5-6 years older than us, he was into horror. My friend Raphael wasn't, but his older brother was. So when Raphael was telling me about all these films that his brother watches that he's scared of, I was like, can you get me? Can you get me them? Because I'd only heard about horror like films really by like 6, 7, or like I'd kind of like snuck out at night and watched the TV, but I hadn't actually seen one. So I remember vividly one morning before the school bell rang, runs up to me and says, open your bag, open your bag, open your bag, open your bag. I was like, okay. And I open my bag and he just slips in this VHS. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to both get in trouble.
God.
We're going to be expelled. What's going on? So I was like, hold on to my bag the entire day during school. I didn't even dare look into it because in case I got in trouble. And then as soon as the school bell rang and I was out of the school grounds, I just peeked into the bag very, very slowly and just saw Nightmare on Elm Street. But it seemed like it was like an ex rental, but it was written in handwriting. And yeah, I had a video in my room at the time, so I just remember sticking it in, and just the world opened up to me. Like, oh my God, this film's so good! It's so good, and it was the best introduction to horror, really. Nightmare on Elm Street, like to the best antagonist that we ever have and ever will have. I think.
Yes, 100% yes. That was my introduction to like grown up horror. I grew up on like Universal monster movies. My dad loved those, and that was like the first time that I watched like a real horror movie, like something that was like really terrifying to me at that time. And I agree, it really felt like it just opened up my whole world. Oh, it's so good.
I also love the found footage vibes of this, of him throwing a videotape into your backpack and you running home and you're like, oh my God, what is this? What is this? And you're like, Nightmare on Elm Street. I miss that.
That was
I love
the best part of
the
VHS.
best vibe.
That was the best part of that day.
I still collect VHS, so I have like thousands of VHS horror things. Maybe inspired by like those first early kind of years of just finding them like gems in the wild.
Well, also, I was thinking because like the UK has had like a weird history with horror. You mentioned that a little earlier, and I was also thinking about like the banned films and the movies. Was that ever? I don't know when that stopped. Was that ever like a factor in?
Yeah, I mean, I was way too young to even understand that, but the list of banned films that Mary Whitehouse, kind of made. The original list was of 39 films. That just basically became my watch list. Like as soon as someone makes, that was like the letterbox of its time, like the video nasty list. I'm like, oh cool, here's 39 films I desperately need to watch. Thanks, Mary Whitehouse. So yeah, no, I love watch. I mean, some of those films aren't great, to be quite honest, but I think every horror fan worth their salt wants to finish that watching the video nasty list, and yeah, like it didn't really affect me too much because by the time I was an adult, it was kind of over, and it was only like a few years it was actually like really, really enforced. And my friend Prano's film Censor that came out is the best representation of that on film I've seen.
Such a good movie.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh my God. I just give all the money to Prano and just let her make what she wants. Like, it's so beautiful, that film.
Yeah,
yes, please.
It made me do a lot of research on the video nasty list because I was like, I'm so fascinated with this after seeing this movie.
Yeah. But then it kind of I guess a continuation of that in the 90s is when horror movies were blamed for every crime possible. Anytime someone was killed, it was because of horror movies. Yep. And the famous case of Jamie Bulger in the 90s, the little kid that was killed by like 2 10-year-olds. They, for some reason, blamed Child's Play 3, which still to this day I have absolutely no reason, like, I don't understand why Child's Play 3 of all films was the one banned, because it doesn't have anything to do with kids killing another kid. So that kind of blew up in, I would say, the mid to late 90s. They're kind of blaming all things on horror. And I think it still has an effect to this day. I think there are some people out there of a certain age who still associate horror with crime and bad things.
Yeah, my family is like, how could you, like my grandparents specifically are very much in that train of like that thought. They're like, you're so nice. How could you like these terrifying things? I'm like, horror doesn't make you a bad person.
I know. In fact, like, as we know, I think horror makes you a good person because it's real catharsis. It's the equivalent of going to the gym and releasing your tension that way, but it's the gym of the mind because you're going through a roller coaster of emotions, which you rarely get in any other genre. Maybe romantic films is the closest you get to the feeling you get with horror because I think love and fear are very closely related.
Yeah.
And horror films is an assault course for your brain because it activates the kind of fight or flight.
And I remember Wes Craven used to say that it was like the boot camp for the psyche. Like, totally.
So speaking of that, though, Jed, were you scared of these movies growing up? Like, were you a scared kid, or were you, because you were like, you know, it was like monsters and these kind of ghost stories, such a part of your life, were you a little bit more inoculated to the scares?
I don't think I was, and this isn't just a flex, I don't think I've ever been scared of horror films. It'll take something really extreme for me to feel fear. And I think I've mentioned this to you before, Mary, but the only thing that will get to me is found footage films because they feel unsafe. They feel like they are, like the people who make it are making snuff movies. The real good ones done in an effective way who find a real reason for them not to be carrying for them to be carrying the camera the whole time. Those films make you feel like in danger. And I always say that because of the authenticity of found footage, what it's trying to do, that's the only type of media that can foster fear for me, because if you think it's real, then you think it can hurt you. For me, you only get that in found footage films. I'm not scared by any other subgenre of horror.
So as an adult, knowing that you don't get scared, can you remember the last time that a movie did scare you?
Ooh, I would say, and this may sound like a complete lie, but it's true. I would say the first time I watched Host, the day before it came out on Shudder, is the first time we all watched it. We watched it and there was a number of emotions happening at that time. But because they were my friends and they were in perilous situations, that's the closest I'll ever be to watching a bunch of my friends die, like in front of my eyes. And so I was scared. I was like, oh my God, like, what have we done? Like, this is not good. So, I just thought, like, this seems like we're just killing our friends. What are people going to think? So I think that, but like something that I didn't make, again, it would probably be Blair Witch Project. And every time I watch that, it still scares me because it's all psychological. There's no blood on screen. Everything happens off screen, and therefore, if you don't get the satisfaction of seeing blood and death on screen, it lives on in your mind forever because you don't get that moment where you see dead bodies or like blood. And that's what the 2016 Blair Witch kind of made a mistake. They just showed it all up front on screen, so like it gives you a reason to breathe out. Whereas the original Blair Witch, like you don't. I still haven't exhaled after watching it.
Yeah, definitely not fans of that here.
Yeah.
No fans of Blair Witch Project here at all. But so I'm curious, was Blair Witch the first found footage movie you ever saw?
I guess technically yes, but the thing that we're going to talk about later, that was the first found footage media we saw. But I had seen other things that were kind of in the realm of found footage, but not specific found footage. And I think it was Blair Witch really that really cemented the term found footage as well. And obviously there are films a couple of years before Blair Witch that some people say was the first found footage. And I don't think I saw Cannibal Holocaust until after I saw Blair Witch. That doesn't count either. But yeah, Blair Witch is the granddaddy for me, really.
And so you started talking about Host. So let's jump in to talk about your career and all the cool things you're working on. How did you get involved in the world of filmmaking? How did that all start for you?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but the first thing I ever did was I co-produced Birdemic 2. People don't realise this.
Did you really?
people don't realise this. Like, I was involved with Birdemic too. That was the very, very, very first thing I ever did, and it's nuts, right? So
iconic, iconic beginning.
I know. So I'm used to having the worst ever rated film on IMDb, and also the top rated film ever on IMDb. So at the same time, how I got into it is obviously I loved Birdemic in a non-ironic way. I think its legacy was that it was a crazy guy who kind of made a silly film. He was very inept, and he managed to get a film out there and made and get it noticed and get the world talking about his little film. That inspired me. He's a very problematic guy, but it inspired me because I just thought, wow, how did this guy from zero get to be on the front cover of the New York Times, get to be played in midnight screenings worldwide, get all this attention for this film? And I was like, wow. So I do what I usually do. I'm like, okay, I want to be involved in this somehow. So I wrote to James, the director, and said, hey, I don't know if you're thinking about making Birdemic 2, but I'd love to be involved. He didn't answer me. And I think I sent him 3 emails. And I thought, okay, that's a bust. But then I said, no, I'm going to contact all of the actors in the film. So I contacted Alan and Whitney, and Alan got back to me and said, okay, I'll forward it on to James. I'm just like, okay, well, I've already spoken to James. And so anyway, it kind of got to the point where they were sick of me for emailing them. So there was this guy... I'm not going to say his name because he's a nasty piece of work, but there was a guy who had just come out of the softcore porn industry who wanted to put some money into a film, and they set up this thing with this guy, and I was like, this is a kind of a nightmare scenario, but this is my first foray into film. I'll see where this leads. And he said, okay, what can you do for Birdemic 2 if we were to bring you on? And I said, and I was talking out my ass, I said, I will get you in every big cinema in Europe. I'll put you into all these film festivals. I'll do this. I'll fly the cast over to London. We'll have this big premiere. And because I was just thinking, okay, they're going to call my bluff any second now. And he was like, okay, cool. And what do you want for that? And I was like, I don't know, make me a producer. I was like, okay. And I was like, oh shit. And there I was signing the contract, thinking, oh no, now I've got to do this. This is cool, but also a crazy scenario. So I was just like, I haven't got the first clue of how to do this. So I just started going to the website of the cinema, calling the cinema, hey, can I speak to someone who books the films? Can I? And I just did that for 1 million cinemas across Europe and the UK.
Holy shit!
And I got it into nearly all of them. I used to work in sales, so I just managed to convince.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So I managed to convince them to get it into all the cinemas, all these film festivals, and I got this film festival in the UK to fly the cast over to have a big premiere in London, and I was like, wow, okay, I could do this. I mean, the film is beyond terrible. Don't get me wrong. I'm fully aware that Birdemic 2, with its 10-minute dance scene, its CGI ambulance for no reason, and it is like a clip art jellyfish, is terrible. It's terrible. But that experience... Oh, I could go on about Birdemic 2 one day, but that experience kind of ignited a fire in me. Like, oh, okay, I can do something in this area. And then very shortly after that, I met Rob Savage, who is the director of Host, and we just started vibing about horror movies. He's always wanted to make horror films, and up till then, he'd made a comedy short, a 30-second comedy short at that point. Oh, I think he did a 2-minute sci-fi short as well for a competition as well. And I just said, look, the very first meeting with him, I just said, I've got this idea for a film called Dawn of the Deaf, and it's about deaf people, and because they're not represented on screen ever, and I want to make a horror film about that plus zombies. And he was into it, and obviously the title is a pun, Dawn of the Deaf, but I thought it was quite funny. But it was very ambitious, so the first thing we made was a short film called Absence, which blew up really quickly. It got into London Film Festival, Fright Fest, all the other ones, with this film that we made for £300.
Wow.
300. And so we were okay. Let's do this again. We did it again with Dawn of the Deaf, and that got into Sundance. And the last short film we made together was called Salt, which just blew us up really, and gave us loads of meeting in Hollywood. That basically, it was really Salt that got us Host, and that's kind of the start of it. And that was only a couple of years ago, so it's not.
And like looking at your schedule this year, Jed, it's kind of bonkers. So you had Host, now you have DashCam, and you have the upcoming Ghost, which is a video game, and you wrote and directed a segment of Scare Package 2. That's coming out this year, and you also have this comic book that you did with a former guest of the show, Trevor Henderson, and that's out now, correct?
Yes, it is out
it's
now.
Good. It's good.
Oh,
Can you tell listeners a little bit about that? Yeah,
so me and Trevor, and Mary Beth already knows this, but we've worked together on a few things now. He did the creature in Ghost, my video game, and there's a few other things that we are working on as well, where it's together. He's just the best person to go to for monsters, basically. And
yes, he is.
And like there's a bit of a shorthand between us. Like he will know all my references. I can say I want him to look a bit like the creature, a little bit like Pumpkinhead, a little bit like this, a little bit like this, and he will know straight away. Like I don't have to dumb myself down for Trevor. Like in fact, I have to pull myself up to reach his monster knowledge. So I had the story that I wrote during lockdown. And this company wanted to put it out, and they were going to hire an illustrator to pair up with me. And I said, I want to use Trevor Henderson, and they said, cool. And it's done really well. It's done really, really well, and it's made me want to do more. And also, there's already light interest from various different places about making a film version of it already.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that is my plan for anything I do, is to eventually for it to be a film. So I'm glad it's happening quite quick.
So what's it about?
So Flicker is about a horror journalist who is writing an article about the anniversary of a film, like the 30th anniversary, and it's about what happened. Yeah, it's about what happened during the filming of this horror film, the rumours of deaths on set, and also in the aftermath, why the lead actress never worked again. So this journalist is interviewing this lead actress in her mansion in Hollywood, and they do the ritual from the film. And they bring forth the protagonist of the horror film called the Flicker Man. And there's various different things you have to do when the Flicker Man appears, or he'll get you. So it's about that. It's very cinematic. You could already see it as a movie, and I hope. I mean, people seem to love it. People keep saying nice things about it. It's ultra short, but then so is Host and DashCam, and I like things to not outstay its welcome. So and it's given me the bug really to write something a bit longer.
Oh yeah,
cool. And so, a lot of your movies a lot of them, Host and DashCam, have been found footage. Do you want to keep making found footage, or do you want to branch out a little bit more into more traditional, in scare quotes, horror?
Yeah, I want to because I'm directing myself. I want to do all kinds of things. The thing for Scare Package was traditionally shot isn't found footage.
Cool. And
I have a few other projects lined up that isn't found footage as well that I'm involved with. I think it was, when did I speak to you last, Mary Beth? Was it Friday?
Friday.
Yeah. On that day, very soon after I spoke to you, I got notification of something that was greenlit that I am writing and directing, which is pretty incredible.
Hell yeah.
And it's not found footage, unfortunately, but it is pretty big. So you'll definitely see from me.
Mary Beth is trying to get into the camera right now.
You'll see something. I'll probably film it later on this year. Well, I know I have to film it later on this year. That's the rules.
Is it rhyme with Larich? Okay.
No, but
Mary Beth trying to get an exclusive on the podcast.
I don't even care about anyone else knowing. I just want to know. I'll fuck everyone else, man. This is for me.
Well, like I've told you earlier, like I've had a meeting about Blair Witch Project already, and I have another one coming up. So we'll see it. I'd obviously love to do it, but it doesn't matter what they say. I am going to do it as a found footage if I get the chance, and that's how it should be. And like honestly, if a Blair Witch Project comes out and I'm not involved with it and it's not found footage, it's a mistake. Like I don't mind me not doing it, but I want it to be found footage. Whoever does it needs to be found footage. But I was just in Burkittsville 2 months ago, hanging out with the locals. Yeah, going through the woods, like where the three were. I was hanging out with some of the cast of the Blair Witch. I speak to Ed Sanchez all the time. Like I'm fully immersed in the world of the Blair Witch Project. Yeah,
you're gonna go missing soon in the woods.
I know. I've got right here. Hold on, let me. Okay, this is. I have a piece of the house from the Blair Witch Project right here.
Dang.
You can see it.
Oh, dang.
So this is from the house at the end of the Blair Witch Project.
All right, well, I'm going to have to go steal one. I'm so close to Burkittsville. I need to go do that.
Oh, wow. I used to come and hang out. It's so cool down there.
I think the timing. Yeah, I live like 45 minutes away. It's like 45 minutes north of me in Maryland. Yeah.
Wow.
But I've said like a million times. Everyone knows this in the podcast, but I will never stop talking about it because it's the coolest thing about me.
It's so nice down there. I love it.
So I know you probably can't talk a whole lot about it, but as someone that grew up playing FMV games, like some of the OG Night Trap, Corpse Killer, there was a cowboy one I remember, like a whole bunch of those. Tiger Shark was a little bit of FMV in there. Like,
what was the one where the guy was like the British detective went like, does this mean anything to you? Like, do you remember this FMV? This is the only one I'm familiar with because I watched someone play it. And it's like it's like a British detective, and a lot of what he asks is like, does this symbol mean anything to you? And it's incredible. But
I'm not
I sound like a crazy person. I sound like a crazy person. Never mind.
I'm gonna have to go look after this.
It sounds a little bit like Seventh Guest, maybe, but I don't know.
Hold on. I'll check with my fiance will know, so I'll check with him while we.
But as someone that grew up with those games, and then seeing sort of like a renaissance of sorts in the last few years of like a bunch of indie games kind of releasing some FMV, I have to ask, Ghosts. I gotta ask, how did you make this film? And because I just gotta know, or this game.
How did I make the game?
Yeah.
Well, it was during Halloween 2020 when we were in a bunch of cinemas in the UK with HOST, and we were doing a lot of Q&As, and we were. I was just hanging out. It was the first time after quarantine that I kind of really got to hang out with my friends, with the cast of HOST, and I was just like, I want to work with these ladies more because it works so well, and that combination of these 5 ladies is so good, and people loved it so much. I'm just like, people will want to see more, surely, but and like none of us want to make a sequel to HOST. Don't want to do that. So we need to take it in a different direction. So I had been playing all those full motion video games that you just mentioned.
It was Contradiction, by the way.
Contradiction. Okay, cool. Yeah,
I'm not familiar with that one. Actually,
he heard me from the other room and immediately texted me. He's like,
Brilliant.
"It's Contradiction." I was like, "Thank you."
That's the kind of fiance you want. Who knows full motion video games? But yeah, I was playing. So Limited Run Games had kind of just released Night Trap, a collector's edition of Night Trap, and I'd been playing that through lockdown. I mean, the game isn't amazing.
It really is not. But let me tell you, 16-year-old Terry needed to have it because it was banned.
Exactly.
It's dirty.
You heard a rumor. Oh, that this girl will take her clothes off. This girl will take her clothes off. No one's taking their clothes. No one's taking their clothes off. That was a good thing to sell the game. So I've been playing that, and I was like, this game would be great if they just had the girls from HOST in it. What would happen if it was this house, and things are inside the house that were spooky, things were outside that were weird, but it was the ladies from HOST, that cast, interacting with each other. What would that look like? And so that I've playing in my mind. And then these game developers just hit me up and said, hey, we've just made a bunch of horror games. We loved Host. Do you have any ideas for a horror game? And I was like, let's jump on Zoom right now, and I will tell you my idea that I come up with yesterday.
You're like, I have 6 ideas already. And
exactly.
I have them ready to go. I love it.
That was me. And it was just pure like coincidence that someone hit me up. And then so I said, look, this is the game I want to do. Think of it like Night Trap, but I want it to be more expansive, like more stuff to do, feel like a James Wan movie, just look beautiful, have so much more kind of usability, and I want it to be almost like an open world type thing. Wow. You can say, for example, you were playing Night Trap, but you didn't have to look at these cameras. You didn't have to look. You could just go do your own thing as well. That's what I wanted to do. But also, I was very inspired by the film that we're going to talk about in a bit. So you will see that the structure of this film that we're about to talk about is very much like Ghosts. Very, very, very much like Ghosts.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just talk about the movie you brought, because we keep talking about it. So I think we should talk about it. So Jed, what movie did you bring with you today for us to discuss?
Today I have brought the film Ghostwatch. Or is it a documentary?
Okay, so for everyone who's unfamiliar, I'll read a brief synopsis. We get these from IMDb. They gave us a very dramatic plot summary, so get ready, everybody. The BBC gives over a whole evening to an investigation into the supernatural. 4 respected presenters and a camera crew attempt to discover the truth behind the most haunted house in Britain, expecting a lighthearted scare or two, and probably uncovering a hoax. They think they're in control of the situation. They think they are safe. The viewers settle down and decide to watch for a laugh. 90 minutes later, the BBC and the country was changed, and the consequences are still felt today.
It's so traumatic. I love
that.
It's so traumatic.
It's great.
But okay, before we do hear your story, I just got to ask, because this was my first time watching this movie, and I kept hearing the woman of the house talking about glory holes, and the first time I was like, excuse me? What?
We've all got glory holes in the UK.
Did I hear this correctly? And then it kept coming up like 2 or 3 times more, and I'm like, why are we talking about glory holes? So I gotta ask, is glory hole like do people in Britain not know what glory hole it means in the United States, or is that like?
I would say that outside of Ghostwatch, I have never heard the cupboard under the stairs being called anything similar to glory holes. That is a pure invention of Stephen Volk. No, I'm sure there are some people who call it glory holes, but like I never have, and I don't know anyone who has. I'm going to ask Stephen about this actually,
because I was wondering. I was like, is this like a cheeky way of getting like some adult humor in this, or what is going on with this? Because I was like, I literally had to Google after the movie's over. It's like glory holes UK, and like what am I going to get? Like,
save search on.
Oh my god.
No. Oh, Jerry, no.
Mistake.
But glory holes aside, Jed, tell us. This is like your favorite movie of all time. Scarred You for Life. Tell us your Scarred for Life story about this movie.
Sure. So I was. This came out in October 1992. I was a very young kid, but everyone in school, in my primary school, said you need to watch this thing that's on tonight. It's going to be really, really scary. And this was around about the same time when I was first discovering Nightmare on Elm Street. So I was like, oh, okay, there's something on TV tonight, on Halloween night. And I was too young to kind of go out to like Halloween parties and stuff like that. So I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to watch this. And like my best friend at the time, he said, okay, like don't forget, it's on at like 9 p.m. Okay, you gotta watch it. And so I remember.
I love those days when we'd all get so excited to watch. Like you couldn't record, like you could maybe record it, but you couldn't the best. We all watched together.
So I basically got my duvet. I don't know where my parents was, but I went into like the lounge, got my duvet on the sofa, turned it on BBC One, and there I met with and this is why it's so effective. We met with the presenters that are real life presenters using their real names to give it a sense of authenticity. and you guys don't know, but Sarah Green and Mike Smith, who are the people on the Sarah Green's the woman on the ground, the blonde woman. She was basically a children's TV presenter. Like, there was no reason to think she'd be lying about this. Craig Charles, the cheeky chappy who comes in now and again, he was from the TV show Red Dwarf, which was my favourite show at the time. Michael Parkinson, the guy in the studio, the kind of older guy in the studio, he was the most respected interviewer in the UK. This set of people was so authentic, using their real names. It's on the BBC as well. Don't forget, the BBC is like school, basically. Like, it's there to educate you. It's not there to trick you. So there I am, like, with the utter belief that this is live and this is real. And what I see for the next 30 minutes, and I'll tell you why it's only 30 minutes in a second, but for the next 30 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, this is real. Something bad's going to happen. I've seen something. Who do I tell? Do I run and tell my parents? I'm scared. I don't want to tell anyone. So, like, after about the 30-minute mark, when I was just like, oh no, this is real. This is going off the rails. And, like, I'm a small kid. Like, I'm under 10. Like, I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so after about 30 minutes, I started flicking through the channels to go to anything to calm me down, because I was too scared. Because I was just like... Because they were starting to be calling, some people saying, it's happening in my home too. The clocks are stopping.
God.
And I was looking at the clock. Oh my God, is the clock going to stop? And I'm like, and because they had phone-ins. So I'm like, oh no, this is the world's ending. What can I do? And do you know what? I was recording it at the time as well on video, but I pressed stop because I didn't want to see anything more ever again. So for the rest of the show, I only went back to it like every 10 minutes or something, but then as soon as something scary happened, I flicked over. I was too young. So to be brutally honest, the first time I saw the entire thing in its entirety, because I was so scared, I had to buy the VHS off eBay, and it was recorded off the in the early days of eBay. It was I had to buy it on a pre-recorded. Actually recorded off the television, just with Ghostwatch written in pen on it, and it felt even more like a snuff tape.
That's fucking incredible. Yeah. That's fucking cool.
But obviously by that point, I knew it was fake, because the week after Ghostwatch came out, there was the Right to Reply points to view type show that they had, where they had to apologise to the country for tricking them. But I tell you what, on school on that Monday, I pretended I'd watched the whole thing. People were coming out with like, did you see at the end when all the cameras were moving around? And I was like, yeah, oh my God, that was great. I wasn't scared at all. It was great. They could have said anything, and I would have been like, "Yeah, wasn't that cool?"
Yeah.
The part where like Superman came in at the end. Oh yeah, that was so wild.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very much.
But like, I don't think you can do that again. I think it's really, really, really hard. And Stephen Volk, the writer, who I've become friendly with in the past few years, he came on to my podcast, Jed Talks, which I haven't done for about a year, but he came on one of the early episodes, and I interviewed him about Ghostwatch, obviously, and because I wanted to know the just the nuances and what was in his head when he wrote it. He told me everything, but at the end of it, my last question to him was, do you think someone could do Ghostwatch now? Do you think someone could do a found footage film that will like blow up like Ghostwatch did? And he said to me, it would have to be a new set of people to do it. Why don't you do it? Why don't you make a found footage film, basically? That's what he said. He's written about this, in fact, and he's written it a lot more flowery than I could explain it. But he basically said, and Jed took that as a challenge, and then Host came out. And it's true, without Ghostwatch, there would be no Host. Like 100%. And if you see at the start of Host, the Zoom ID is 31101992, which is the day that Ghostwatch aired. That's the Zoom ID at the start. Because we're just like, yeah, we love Ghostwatch, and we're going to put a bunch of Ghostwatch stuff in Host. And yeah.
So that brings up one of the things that like really intrigued me about watching this, because I watched this last night for the very first time, and I was thinking back how... What's that?
Oh, to be you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so jealous.
I didn't actually know about this film until like 2017, 2018 when Shudder had it briefly on their thing, and I didn't watch it then. I don't know why. I guess I thought it was going to be there forever. And
oh no, it's there for October, then disappears on November 1st. That's how it feels like anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But as I was watching this, I was like, man, this reminds me of like everyone freaking out when War of the Worlds came out and was, you know, it was aired on radio. And it also, I mean, yes, I don't think you could do this. I think it'd be very difficult to like stage something that people think is real. But honestly, I was thinking about the Blair Witch, because before I went into the Blair Witch Project, there was like that fake documentary that was on, you know, Sci-Fi. And I had in my head that this was real and that we were going to go into a movie theater and we're going to be seeing basically what amounted to a snuff film. Like that is what my anticipation. And then it was spoiled like the day or two before I went to go see it in the movie theater. I realized, oh, this is all fake. But like that anticipation of like saying, oh God, this is actually real. This is actually something that happened. I feel like it's harder to do now, because I can't think of any other time where something pulled it off to the degree of like War of the Worlds or Ghostwatch or Blair Witch.
I think it's because was found footage films are so saturated in the market. Post Blair Witch, we got 90,000 terrible found footage movies, which I think hurt the subgenre so much, because it even made horror film fans not like the genre for a little while as well, because out of all of the thousands of found footage films, there really was only a handful that kind of stood out above the rest in that time, like Paranormal Activity and Wreck. And yeah, there was about 10 years of not great found footage movies. But yeah, like it's difficult to do something like that now because we're so savvy. The internet exists, but I think there is room to trick the public again. You just need to find the right angle.
Yeah,
I think that like a lot of that stuff is happening in more online spaces too. I feel like it's not exactly the same, because Ghostwatch obviously has these like super recognizable figures from like obviously from like BBC history, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff happening on TikTok that I always talk about this, and I think TikTok is like the coolest place for horror stuff, like one of the coolest places for horror stuff now, 100%. Because people are making like take whatever grain of salt, whatever you want to think, because some people are like do reveal they're making a movie, or other people are like documenting like their everyday lives and there's happens to be a ghost in it, and I think it's not as big of a splash, but I think it's more prevalent. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's more of a prevalence of these people experiencing supernatural stuff or thinking they are, and then also thinking about like series like Marble Hornets that people thought were real was my real favorite. For a bit too. I love Marble Hornets, so I think it might be on like I said, a smaller scale than like it was a Blair Witch, but I think it's just more common, and we're almost becoming like accustomed to it in an interesting way.
You're 100% right about the TikTok thing. TikTok is where all of the kind of found footage seeds are being planted. I get sent so many videos of just random TikTokers with seeing spooky things in their house, and do you know what? The production value now, because everyone's got great phones, is on par with any other. I mean, we shot HOST and DASHCAM on iPhones, so everyone's using the same cameras. And TikTok is an absolute treasure trove of found footage, like short form found footage. Like it's ridiculous how good it is as well.
Fucking best thing. Look, I've been preaching this for months because I'm like, y'all, this is where found footage is going, and it's fascinating because again, a lot of times people don't say it's fake. You think it's real. They're really keeping up that illusion of truth. I'm getting like my arm in the air because I'm getting really excited.
It's true.
We're getting off topic of Ghostwatch. We can get back on. I know, I'm sorry. You're getting me talking about found footage with another found footage person. I'm just like, let's talk about everything.
We need to start a found footage podcast, Mary Beth. That's what we need to do.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Anyway.
No, the thing about TikTok, and it's I was thinking about this just like a few days ago, because I mean, I'm gay. I'm on TikTok. I'm seeing a bunch of like hunky men stripping, right? And doing all this kind of stuff. And yet the TikTok algorithms seem to like pick up on things. And so I'll be watching like sexy, something funny, some dance move that's been repeated like a million times. And then all of a sudden there's like this random weird ass video. Like I shared with Mary Beth, the Cheerios man. There's a guy that that like has a Cheerios box on his head, and there's like feeding people Cheerios, and that thing pops up, and it's like, what just happened? I was watching a man like do the sexy dance, and now I'm like seeing someone being force fed. What is happening? And it reminded me a little bit of being back in like VHS, where you're like watching something and it's like really poorly recorded, or things have been recorded over each other. And you're just watching something, and all of a sudden there'll be like a random scene that has nothing to do with the movie in it. And that's kind of how I feel scrolling through TikTok right now.
Oh yeah, like I watched a TikTok video the other day. It only had got about 300 likes or something, so it wasn't like viral or anything. But it's just this woman walking through her house, and there was a noise outside, and she pointed her phone outside to where the noise was, and in the reflection of the window, you could see her like door behind her, and you just see this figure walk past it. And it was so well done. I'm just like, it was so well done.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my god! Like this is straight out of like a James Wan film. It's great. It was really, really good. I'm like, oh wow, okay. So people out there are basically filmmakers. Like they are doing things that could potentially just spawn off into film. So I'm sure there are a lot of producers out there scrolling through TikTok looking for the next film. And the one problem that people doing that will have is, if, like we did with Zoom, we asked permission to use Zoom, TikTok are very, very unlikely to let you use TikTok, their logo.
Yeah.
So you can't do it. My friend Josh Stolberg is making a horror film based on a TikTok style app called Triller that's out there. It's like a TikTok alternative, and it's about that. And I can't wait for that, by the way. It's going to be great. It's like Saw in an influencer house.
Oh,
it's going to be great. But like, honestly, like if someone manages to convince TikTok to let them use TikTok, the most popular app in the world, for a found footage film, it is going to be massive. It's going to be massive. But apparently they are just very, very strongly against letting it be used. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of money will help.
Sometimes it makes me happy, though, just because it means less people will be trying to do that on the app. You know what? Again, it's like always like the blessing and a curse with that kind of stuff. But then, like, I want to go back to Ghostwatch.
Yeah.
But I think Ghostwatch, to me, is... I think, like, obviously the Blair Witch Project is incredibly iconic, but I really feel like Ghostwatch needs so much more credit than it gets for, like, starting a genre. It's not shaky cam, but it's pseudo-documentary style in terms of playing with truth that we consider part of found footage, because, again, there's, like, a whole subgenre of fake and, like, faking us out. And I wrote an article in Grip Magazine a couple years ago that Paranormal Activity only exists because of Ghostwatch. 100%. And I will stand by that forever, because Ghostwatch is, I believe, if not the first, one of the first movie, like, found footage horror movies / like the first horror movie to really utilize this idea of the static camera, because we see them walking through the house and setting up the cameras in different parts of the house to make sure they see all the activity. And we haven't really seen that before. And they even use night vision. They don't use night vision, and they cut between all the different scenes, and you're supposed to just look. And that's exactly what made Paranormal Activity so terrifying. And Ghostwatch introduced this. And I think that Ghostwatch is such an influential film on what we think of as found footage. And I just need more people to know about it and to see it, because it's incredible. Like, I think it's like a foundational contemporary horror movie.
100%. And I believe Oren Peli now, all the guys that were involved in Paranormal Activity, they straight up say Ghostwatch was the thing that influenced them now. They've said that in interviews. And I did something a couple of weeks ago, it's not been announced yet, but something involving Ghostwatch. I found out doing that thing that Paranormal Activity, like the guys there, like directly now say that they are directly influenced by Ghostwatch. And how can you not be? Because it did it way better. It tricked millions and millions and millions of people.
And that is not to say that Paranormal Activity like ripped it off or anything. I love Paranormal Activity. I'm writing a book about it.
Oh, you really? Like, wow, nice.
Yeah.
We did a commentary on it for the Second Sight film release of it, too.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, like, love Paranormal Activity. But again, it's just like, paying respects to the horror stuff that comes before it.
Well, there's a lot that I think pulls from this movie because it's wild watching this in 2022 and seeing like things that would pop up in horror movies over time. Like I'm fairly convinced that James Wan pulled the moment from Insidious where there's someone in like the curtains from this movie, because there's a couple times where there's someone either blending into the curtains or is like kind of hiding next to the curtains, and I'm like, it feels very Insidious to me. The whole like I love the moment with infrared. I was not expecting the movie to pull out some technology and go infrared, and again I was thinking about the moment in Wreck where they're the climax of Wreck where it's in the night vision goggles and they're filming things and you don't really see everything. Like, I was just pulling all this stuff in here that I was like, man, a lot of movies for a movie that I don't think a lot of people had seen or is like on the massive mainstream cultural dashboard outside of maybe the UK. It has such a powerful foundational text for a lot of stuff, and it surprised the heck out of me.
You're 100% right. It really does. And I think, Mary Beth, you're completely right. Some of the specific kind of logistics of static cameras, this was the first place 100% that kind of did that. I think it's incredible. I think the reason why it didn't cross over into the mainstream conversation is because it was only ever shown once in the UK, and that was Halloween 1992. It was basically banned up until I think the 2000s in the UK, and that was when the BFI did their first release. I think it was 2002 or something. And prior to that, it was just you could only get copied off the TV VHS on eBay, and that's why it didn't spread. But and Americans just never knew about it. But it was such a shame, but that's why I'm so glad that Shudder have around Halloween they usually have the rights to show it, because more people need to see it. Actually, I mean, it's on the Internet Archive, I guess.
It is, yeah. That's unfortunately how I got to see it, because it's not available anywhere else.
Yeah, you just can't find it. Yeah,
I can understand why the banned nature of it, because I was doing some like research, and like the public outcry to it was pretty immediate. I saw that I was reading this article on BBC from 2017 where they were talking about Ghostwatch, the BBC spoof that duped a nation, and they talk about, I'm sure you're familiar with this, that Martin Denham, who committed suicide 5 days after it aired, and the family was blaming it on Ghostwatch because of his suicide note was basically saying that, I don't know if ghosts exist, but if they are, I'll be with you as one forever. So there's like
Jesus. So
that happened 5 days after, and there was a lot of articles that came out basically like shaking their finger at their hand at the BBC, and I was looking at it where 20,000 people tried to get through to Parkinson at one time. Volkis said that 3 women who were pregnant went into labor that night. A vicar phoned in to complain that even though, this is a quote, even though he realized it wasn't real, he thought the BBC had raised demonic forces.
National seance. That's what it was. It was a national seance.
Yeah. Thousands of complaints. Some of the headlines: viewers blast BBC sick ghost hoax. The TV program killed our dear son. Like, this is the kind of outcry afterwards. So I can understand why they backed off on it a little bit, although it's kind of sad that
there's a thing that literally no one has ever mentioned in any article, but like I'm fully aware of. The phone number in Ghostwatch that you had to call was the phone number from a children's TV show that's on Saturday mornings. So kids knew that number really, 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 really well. It's 081 811 8181. And so when you see that on screen, you just associate. And don't forget, like I said, Sarah Green was a children's TV star. And so you have all of these connotations that of this being safe. This is safe. So calling that number, you got some kind of recorded response that the lines are busy. But obviously it's fake. But yeah, and I use a lot of these in Ghosts as well. I use a lot of this stuff in Ghosts.
Oh, it's just so genius though, because again, like, you're playing with what people know. Like, they really went for the bit.
They also have like people calling in at the time, so it gives that illusion of like, people are calling in. You might as well keep calling. It's
genius.
It's so mind-meltingly brilliant.
But it is like, it's definitely like, it's again a meta found footage moment, because people are calling in and being like, hey, I saw that in the curtain, you didn't see it. So it's like, again, with found footage, when you're staring at something and you see something that maybe someone doesn't, and the people didn't catch it, so someone else called in, and it's like this communal found footage horror moment that's so cool, and they just curated this entire experience. Like, it's an experience. It's not like an experience for you. Like, I'm so cool. It is so cool that you actually like watched it when it was broadcasting, and like people came to school and they were like, "Did you see it?"
Yeah,
and you're like, I mean, obviously you didn't watch the whole thing, but still, like, it's just like such a cool cultural zeitgeist moment to be a part of, and like realize it's like this wild, fabricated, cool thing.
It was great just to be alive with something, because like you always hear about the War of the Worlds, Awesome World things, and you just think, oh, how can people be that stupid that they fell for it? But we all fell for it. We all fit in the UK. We fell for Ghostwatch. So
well, I keep thinking about how, like, if this was the United States and back at the time, and Dan Rather and Peter Jennings and Diane Sawyer and, that kind of people were doing something like this, we'd believe it. We'd be like, what the fuck is happening right now? And I think that's another brilliant move on it, is to have, as you had mentioned earlier, have the actual presenters be themselves and playing it completely straight. And they're having fun. I think that also, like, kind of deceptively, like, surprises you, is that everyone's kind of taking it as a laugh. Like, I love Craig. He's running around, he's making jokes. There's someone jumping out trying to scare people. Craig is like interviewing like people running down the street, seeing like trick-or-treaters. I love the vibe. It just disarms you, and then just like, oh shit.
I love Craig's character, because I mean that is Craig Charles in real life as well. He is like that, and and all of these things that we're talking about, I use elements of it in Ghosts, and like I think I said to Leslie Manning, the director of Ghosts, of Ghostwatch, and also don't forget it's a female director that directed one of the most formative found footage things of all time.
Literally, my article for Grip Magazine was, the Paranormal Activity has a woman to thank. It was like very much framed as like a woman is like at the forefront of the found footage movement, and she is my queen. She's so cool. She followed me on Instagram, and I almost cried.
Oh my
I was
God.
just like, hi, you're my hero.
She's a genius. Like I got to hang out with her like recently, and I kept on saying to her, "You don't understand. You don't understand how important Ghostwatch is to me." And I kept on saying, "You're my hero. Leslie, you are my hero." And she's so humble, and I don't think she realizes how it's affecting the entire world because of her direction, which is absolutely incredible, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, the direction is fantastic in this. The movie is paced to perfection, first of all. Like, it is just constantly moving. And the moment it doesn't let you like sit still. It's like we're in the studio, we're out there, we're listening to phone calls, we're watching footage in a found footage-esque movie of that, Pascal, the doctor took in Germany on a previous case. And then we're flipping into the house, and it's constantly moving. It's constantly like not allowing you to be comfortable at all. And it's written perfectly, and it's directed so damn well.
Remind me, was this filmed live, or was it pre-recorded and they played it like it was live?
It was pre-recorded and played like it was live. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
I would be so impressed if it was done live, but like it'd be impossible.
It would be absolutely insane. But I wasn't doubting them and to try and do that. So that's why I wasn't sure.
It looked like it was shot live. It's just,
but they really do, like, they really capture what a live broadcast is and what it looks like, and the editing between everything and the aesthetics of that. That it doesn't feel amiss at all.
Exactly,
like it has all that stuff.
Oh, and one of the kind of important things, again, a lot of people miss about Ghostwatch is it's pulled from the same source material as The Conjuring 2, the Enfield Poltergeist. Which the Enfield Poltergeist is one of the most famous poltergeist like stories. There are inspired numerous films.
It's kind of like the England's Amityville Horror, kind of like, right?
Yeah, it really is.
It was.
Yeah. And and it was kind of when that original story happened in the 70s with the two girls that lived in the house. That was all over the newspapers, and it continued on for years about this haunted house. So this is kind of like a version of the Enfield Poltergeist, but I think just a lot more nuanced. And if I compare Ghostwatch to Conjuring 2, I really, really like Conjuring 2, but it's very Hollywoodized. It doesn't have the kind of British kind of grit and that you kind of have with this, which makes it feel a little bit even more authentic, I think, because people think we tend to tell the truth, and where we are, and it's the wrong view of the UK, because we have not as prim and proper as people like to make out, definitely not, but there is an air of believability to when you hear an English accent sometimes.
Yeah.
And and that added to the authenticity as well. But
I'll tell you, I was ready to believe the Michael Parkinson, is that's his name? I was like hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, okay, what's going on next? What's happening right now? Like I watching 2022, knowing everything about it, going like, yeah, okay, so what's next? What's happening? What's going on? Like it just.
Well, yeah. So Terry, this is your first time watching it, so it sounds like you had a great time, but I want to hear directly like what it was like to watch this and like your experience with it.
Well, it reminds me of like the perfect Halloween movie. Because even without the like truthfulness, if you just take it as what it is, and it was a movie, it just, the atmosphere it cultivates, like, it reminded me of sitting around a campfire swapping ghost stories with a bunch of people, from like Pascal's investigation in Germany and kind of talking about that, her experience with ghosts. And then Sarah is telling the story about staying at a friend's house that a viceroy of India had, once lived in, and had concubines that died, or like even the callers calling in and sharing the story. And then there's the main story happening. It feels like a bunch of people sitting around swapping ghost stories and celebrating Halloween. And it hits a lot of like the Halloween tropes of like, kids running around in Halloween costumes, the bobbing for apples, it was fun. And there's pranks, there's trick-or-treat pranks, like the guy jumping out of the pantry in the kitchen. Like it gave me that kind of like, this is a movie I could watch on Halloween every year, and I would really fucking enjoy.
Yeah.
It's fun and scary. Like, it leads into that fun aspect. Like, it's going to be a silly, cool, fun, like, Halloween broadcast, hee-hee, and then it just goes to hell really quickly.
There's that one moment where the camera is panning, and I think it was the girl's bathroom or bedroom, and there's something leaning up against the drapes or something, and the camera passes and then like quickly does a double take and it's gone. And I gasped with them. I was like, oh, ooh. Like,
that's what we took and we put into Host. The bit in the attic where the camera sweeps past and you see the feet dangling, and then if they go back, and it goes back, and then the feet are gone. That's directly taken from Ghostwatch.
I have to say that I had the immense pleasure of talking to Rob about that and being like, Rob, there's that moment. I love that. And he's like, a lot of people don't mention that. And I was like, that was the moment for me that like got me. I was like, why is there feet there? Like that was the moment that got me.
Yeah, me and Rob talk about Ghostwatch all the time. It's like everything basically comes back to Ghostwatch, like at all times.
But let's talk about how terrifying in general Pipes is.
Pipes?
Oh my god. Whew. Like we mentioned before, like it's really hard to beat Freddy as an antagonist, but with Pipes, you have something that is bloody terrifying, because one, he appears to the kids and he's in the kids' room. You have this old man with a messed up face in your child's bedroom, and you have cameras in there. It doesn't matter. He'll still come and get the kids. And I think one of the genius things that Stephen Volk put into the script is the fake out with Pipes. Is like, he's called Pipes because you hear these pipes banging in the house, but then at one point you see one of the kids banging on the pipe itself, and you see Michael Parkinson go, oh, well, we're sorry, viewers, that this is just, all along this was the hoax, we're really sorry about that. But then Pipe strikes, and you see the other girl's face all cut up and stuff, and just the flashes you see of Pipes is so terrifying, and it does the beautiful thing that horror does, which it doesn't give it away. It doesn't show you everything. So in your mind, you form this image of Pipes, and like it's terrifying. The fact he doesn't speak as well, technically doesn't speak, is terrifying as well. And on multiple watches, when you're looking in the background to see where Pipes is, that's scary as well, because you don't know where he is. Oh yeah, it's just incredible.
So Mary Beth, when did you first see this?
I saw this when it first came to Shudder in 2018, because I was living in Chicago at the time and watching a lot of movies by myself, because I was studying horror movies, and also I just didn't want to go out and leave my apartment.
Relatable.
So I had heard of Ghostwatch and like heard all about the story behind it. So I was like, well, I have to watch this, and it's directed by a woman, and like women directed horror is like my go-to. I watched it knowing all the context, in the dark, and it still creeped me out.
Wow.
Like, it really creeped me out. Like, even knowing it was all fake, I think they still doing a really good job in creating the scares. Like, I don't think you need to know that, again, you don't need to know that context to really be like, holy shit, like, that is fucking terrifying. Like, this creature is, like, I cannot imagine seeing that live and thinking it was real. I would have just evaporated into the air.
Cease to be.
Like cease to be, like the fact that it's crazy because it is scary, and it's a rare kind of feeling to watch something like that and be so creeped out, like, you know, because we have a hard, like, you know, Jed and Terry, we have a hard time being scared by things, so being able to be creeped out by something from 92 that had this crazy story was really cool. And I think it kind of got me. I've always liked found footage, but this got me kind of even more excited about found footage and thinking about like pseudo documentaries and like playing with that. So this is just like a really important movie in my heart because of that. And thanks to Shudder for putting it on the streaming service. I mean, good God, like, thank God.
Yeah, I think it should be on there all the time on Shudder. And
it should.
And just about the way that Leslie and Stephen Volk introduces Pipe and the lore around Pipes. Is so interesting with the phone calls, giving exposition and just drip feeding the information out there. And I think the thing that really started my heart beating when I first watched it was when you first see the children's drawing of Pipes. And it's all messed up, and you don't get to see it for very long. You just like, what was that? He looked all messed up. And then when you finally hear like who he is and about how the cats ate his face and you hear all the cats outside as well. It's just
dark as
it's
fuck.
Almost like I wouldn't be surprised if you told me Stephen Volk and Leslie Manning were time travelers, because it's filled with so many incredible set pieces and contemporary horror scares, but just done 30 plus years before everyone else did it. Like, it's unbelievable. It's actually unbelievable. It's like the blueprint.
But exactly, but like, especially because like I think about the haunted house movie is always like this big gothic mansion and there's like lots of places, but this is just like a house.
Yeah,
this is like a small house with a single working mom and 2 kids, and it's just like, it's small, and that's it. And I think not a lot of movies had played with that yet, and not a lot of people, like, a lot of them do deal with like a normal haunted family home, not like a ginormous one, and this kind of invasion of the small home, and like no family is safe was just, and the way they use the space, again, I always am so impressed in found footage movies like this where you can use the space really effectively and make a small space that you're seeing over and over again feel
and listen, and claustrophobic, both, like, and like it feels like it could be bigger than it is, and also incredibly claustrophobic at the same time. Oh
yeah. And I think it's just because you have the illusion of safety because it's the BBC. You have these likable known characters, and when that's taken away, when you realize that they're not in control of it, like you just get so scared. Well, I just got so scared when I was a kid because, like, you expect the BBC to have a level of control to kind of protect the country almost. That's how much the BBC is revered here, and for them to go to like just do a heel turn and just trick us like that. That is, don't know if I could ever trust them again.
Well, what surprised me also on watching it was how epic it actually is, because it is contained to the house, but then it's not, and it's like the whole country is going to be destroyed by this ghost. And I was like, wow, how giant scale for a movie that seems like it's just going to be a very small ghost story in this very small house, and it goes to epic proportions, and that, like, I was not expecting that at all, and I love that.
Jed, do you know what the budget was for this movie? Since you've talked to them all?
Well, it was, again, I don't think it was big. I don't know the exact budget, but don't forget, this was made for TV. It wasn't made for like anything else. I don't know, but I don't think it was that much.
It couldn't have been. I was just curious because, like, it's like a broadcast. If it's filmed like a broadcast, you're not going to put a bunch of money behind it. No. It's again, low budget. This kind of stuff is always so impressive. Like what they're able to create with such limited resources. Yeah, it's just neat. It's just neat.
And I don't. And this it pains me because I don't know why Stephen Volk and Leslie Manning aren't out there making massive horror movies right now. Like, why aren't they? Like, what do they need to do they've made one of the most incredible found footage films of all time before everyone else did, and they're out there. They have other ideas. They have other horror films they want to do. Someone just needs to give them the money and just let them do it. Like, it pains me.
Please.
Yeah.
Implore.
According to a couple sites, the budget was 900,000 pounds.
Okay.
Wow, that's higher than I would have expected.
Yeah, it is
But
actually.
Still, it's higher than I expected.
I mean,
That's about 2.5 mil now. That's approximately about 2.5 mil now, I'd say. And
I don't know how like accurate it. I mean, I'm just seeing it on like websites, New Statesman and Expose.
Yeah.
So I who knows? It's the internet. Don't trust everything, but like,
Well, it worked.
it's
worth every penny.
every penny.
Worth every penny. Holy shit.
So watching this now, do you, as someone that was so terrified as a kid that stopped it after 30 minutes, does it still scare you to this day?
I would say, yeah, it does. Like I said, found footage has a way of just weaseling itself into my mind and not letting go. And I still trust Michael Parkinson. I still love
He's
Sarah
very
Green.
trustworthy.
Yeah, I do. Like I made a bunch of enamel pin badges of Sarah Green with her Ghostwatch t-shirt like a few years back.
Love
and
that.
I sent a whole bunch to Stephen. I've actually still got a whole bunch. Mary Beth, I'll get one out to you. I'll get one out to you. Don't worry. I've still got a whole bunch. But like,
I'll pay for shipping.
okay. But there's so much to still love about it, and I think if you want to learn how to make a found footage film, there are a bunch of films you can go to. It's Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity, but it's also Ghostwatch. Like, you have to go to Ghostwatch. Before Ghostwatch, a couple of years before Ghostwatch, there was the McPherson tape, the kind of alien invasion thing. But that was extremely crude, handheld, and that has maybe a little bit more in line with Blair Witch Project than it does to Ghostwatch. But yeah, I would say I still get scared, but mostly inspired by what they did at that time, with very few references. I know that Stephen Volk's very inspired by Nigel Neal, and so am I. Nigel Neal is the writer of many things, but The Stone Tape, which was another British TV movie that's absolutely incredible. He also did the Quatermass series, and he did this series on ITV, our Channel 3 here in the UK, called Beasts. I don't know if you've seen Beasts, guys, but it's 6, maybe it's 8-hour-long horror shows that were shown on Prime TV in 1976. Oh my god. It is incredible. Okay. And
cool.
People aren't talking about it. It's kind of like folk horror type thing, but it's about very real people in the UK in the 70s coming up against supernatural stuff. And that's Nigel Neal. And I think that, and because I know Stephen Volk is very inspired by Nigel Neal, I think you can see a lot of Nigel Neal in Ghostwatch. So if you're a fan of Ghostwatch, go back and watch Nigel Neal stuff. He's one of the best to ever do it, to be honest, Nigel Neal. To write horror. And yeah, it's one of the best things I've ever seen, Ghostwatch, and I will continue to fly the flag for it. And you'll notice, as soon as Host came out and we started doing interviews, me and Rob just never stopped talking about Ghostwatch. Like, just constantly. It was Ghostwatch and Lake Mungo, and
Lake Mungo.
Yeah, those are the two. And then, luckily, very shortly after, Second Sight released the amazing kind of Lake Mungo Blu-ray, which was
I was
incredible.
in it.
Oh, it's so good.
I wrote an essay for the booklet for that because I'm obsessed with Lake Mungo.
It's amazing, and
they put what they put out is so good. The way they do their releases.
Second Sight, oh my god, they are smashing it. I have allegiances to Arrow. I do like Arrow a lot.
I do love Arrow too.
But Second Sight is also like the Host release. Oh my god, that is a work of art. Like oh my god, Second Sight's brilliant.
Well. All right, guys. Do we want to wrap this up and give it our rating out of 5?
Sounds good.
Cool. Terry, how many glory holes out of 5 do you give Ghostwatch?
All the glory holes. When I added this in Letterboxd, I gave it a 4. But honestly, this is a 5. I think this is a perfect movie. And talking about it like really cemented my love of it. I love that it feels like a perfect Halloween movie. I honestly can't think of not watching this like on Halloween from now on, because it just, I think, evokes that season so well of a trick or treat. The whole movie is basically like a giant trick, and I love that. And it has such a communal sense of of telling ghost stories, and it's incredibly well done. I was like amazed at how quickly it went. I was expecting it to be a little bit stodgier, a little bit slower paced, but it just moves, and it genuinely got me to gasp. It got me to titter off of like the constant talk of glory holes. Like I think this movie is great. I think it's fantastic, and I am now a devotee of it. So what about you, Mary Beth? You're a 1, right?
Obviously 5. I just want to say again, Terry, I'm so glad that we are making you watch more found footage. Terry was not a found footage person, and then I started talking about it all the time, and now he's watched a lot more found footage.
So many.
Amazing.
And he enjoys most of the ones I've recommended. And now he likes Ghostwatch. So honestly, it's all I could hope for. I've converted one person, so it makes me very happy. But this movie is so incredibly important to me and important to the genre. I think it is expertly crafted. I think it was so ahead of its time in thinking in terms of what it means to make a horror movie and what you're supposed to do in a horror movie. I think it really puts on display how found footage can feel so honest, but that how easily you can be manipulated into believing like a certain kind of format. And I just think that is so incredible and just like mind-blowing. So yeah, 5 glory holes for me. And then Jed, the final word. How many glory holes do you give Ghostwatch?
I give it 5 ectoplasmic glory holes covered in slime. And it is like I said, it's one of the foundation texts for found footage films. Without it, we wouldn't have Paranormal Activity. It did Blair Witch 10 years before Blair Witch, 7 years before Blair Witch. It is incredible. Everyone involved with it is incredible. It is the blueprint for everything that I do, pretty much. So if I didn't give it 5, then I would be lying. I would love to see someone else do something like this, but I think it's almost impossible because what it did was it broke the mold. And I just implore people to go seek it out and watch it, and hopefully it'll be on Netflix one day, just so it's an easy to watch thing that the whole world can see, because it's really, really important. And Leslie Manning and Stephen Volk need to get their flowers. We need to every Halloween.
Need it.
Yeah, we need to be praying and celebrating Leslie Manning and Stephen Volk. They do not get the praise that they thoroughly deserve, and they're incredible.
Well, thank you so much, Jed, for joining us to talk about Ghostwatch and having me finally watch this, because I just, it was so good. Where can our listeners find you, and what do you have coming up that you can share?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm just the same and everything, at Jed Shepherd, JedSheperd. And DASHCAM's coming out, our Blumhouse movie, on June the 3rd in cinemas, pretty much everywhere. Then Scare Package 2 is coming out at some point this year. I don't know when, but I can't wait for you to see what I've done. I think people will be very surprised. Yeah, I can't wait till you see what my one's about.
Can't wait.
People will just be like, what's he doing now? And then I'm trying to think what we've announced. So I think that's all I can say that's been announced. There'll be a few more announcements in the next couple of months, I think. Some pretty big ones. And hopefully I get to do Blair Witch Project. I would love to.
Manifesting it.
Your comic book is out now. Is it?
Yeah. It's basically a visual novel, I think they're calling it.
All right.
But yeah, that's out now. You can find it on Amazon. It's called Flickr. And please let me know if you like it, and can't wait to write more.
So, listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. What was your experience with Ghostwatch? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm at Gailey Dreadful.
And of course, make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast. Fucking shit, I know.
That's a long train.
I know.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Geller for our music. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay safe out there. But most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is the briefing room?
It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.